in a direct and devastating response to ongoing threats. Iran has unleashed a massive barrage of hypersonic ballistic missiles, each armed with over 1,000 kilograms of high explosives, targeting critical military and infrastructure sites across central Israel. The primary target of this concentrated assault was the Orot Rabin power plant, the nation's largest energy facility located in Hadera. Within seconds of the initial impacts, Israel's national power grid collapsed, plunging 80% of the country into total darkness. This is not just a localized failure. It is a strategic blackout affecting major metropolitan areas from Tel Aviv to Haifa and reaching as far as the outskirts of Jerusalem. The night sky is currently illuminated only by the glow of massive fires and the streaks of incoming projectiles, while air raid sirens provide a constant haunting soundtrack to the chaos. According to intelligence sources, the operation involved the deployment of the Theta-2 hypersonic missile, a state-of-the-art weapon designed specifically to evade the most advanced missile defense systems in existence, including the Arrow 3 and the Iron Dome. These missiles travel at speeds exceeding Mach 15, making interception almost impossible once they enter their terminal phase. Military analysts in Tehran claim that the destruction of the Orot Rabin facility is a calculated message to both Israel and its Western allies. By disabling 80% of the power supply, Iran has effectively neutralized the civilian and industrial backbone of the country, creating a logistical nightmare for the Israeli Defense Forces. The humanitarian and economic implications of this total blackout are staggering. Hospitals are now forced to rely on limited diesel generators to keep life support systems functioning, and there are reports of significant failures in the nation's desalination plants, which could lead to a water crisis within 48 hours. Communication networks are failing as cell towers lose power, leaving millions of citizens in a state of information isolation. This strikes at the heart of the Israeli sense of security, proving that despite billions of dollars spent on defense, the nation remains vulnerable to a concentrated and high-technology assault. The smoke rising from Hadera is visible from miles away, a dark pillar marking a new and terrifying chapter in the Middle East conflict. The world now waits to see how Washington and Tel Aviv will respond to this unprecedented breach of national security. As the darkness continues to grip Israel, the military response has been nothing short of catastrophic for the Iranian command structure. Reports are now surfacing of a lightning strike deep inside Tehran that unfolded in less than 1 minute. This was not a standard air raid, but a surgical operation targeting a secret underground command complex, where the most senior military leaders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had gathered to coordinate the ongoing blackout offensive. According to regional military analysts, dozens of high-precision bunker-busting bombs struck the facility within a 50-second window, collapsing the reinforced concrete layers and burying the leadership under thousands of tons of debris. This operation, reportedly planned in total secrecy with direct support from United States intelligence, has effectively decapitated the Iranian military's ability to direct its proxy forces across the Middle East. The technical execution of this strike has shocked military observers worldwide. The underground bunker, designed to survive even a tactical nuclear strike, was compromised by a combination of cyber intrusion and advanced kinetic munitions. The timing of the Israeli and American response suggests that they were waiting for the Iranian leadership to congregate in a single location before launching the final blow. Witnesses in Tehran describe a series of earth-shaking explosions followed by a total communications blackout in the vicinity of the government quarter. This massive retaliation happened even as the Israeli power grid remained offline, proving that the Israeli Defense Forces maintain a lethal and fully operational strike capability regardless of the domestic infrastructure situation. The loss of these high-ranking commanders has sent shockwaves through the Iranian government, creating a power vacuum at the worst possible moment. In the streets of Tel Aviv and Haifa, the news of the strike on Tehran has provided a grim sense of resolve, despite the ongoing lack of electricity and basic services. Citizens huddled around battery-powered radios heard reports that the Supreme Leader himself may have been at the facility during the time of the attack. While official confirmation is still pending, the sheer scale of the destruction suggests that few, if any, inside the bunker could have survived the 50-second onslaught. This marks a massive escalation in the conflict, moving from proxy wars and infrastructure sabotage to direct leadership decapitation. The geopolitical landscape has been permanently altered, and the shadow of a total war now hangs over the entire region as both sides move their most potent weapons into position for a final confrontation. The world is witnessing the collapse of the old order, replaced by a brutal and high-stakes game of survival. The immediate consequence of the total blackout in Israel and the subsequent decapitation strike in Tehran has sent the global energy markets into a state of unprecedented hysteria. As news of the conflict spread, the price of Brent crude oil surged by more than 20% in less than 6 hours, shattering the $120 per barrel mark. This sudden spike is driven by the very real threat that the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most vital maritime choke point, could be closed indefinitely. Iran has long maintained that any direct attack on its soil would result in the total blockage of this narrow waterway, through which 20% of the world's total petroleum consumption passes. If the strait is closed, the global economy faces a catastrophic supply shock that could trigger a worldwide recession far worse than any seen in the last 50 years. In response to this looming threat, the United States has ordered 3 carrier strike groups, led by the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, to take up positions in the Arabian Sea. The Pentagon has officially labeled this a freedom of navigation operation. But the sheer scale of the naval deployment suggests a much broader objective. Military sources indicate that the United States is prepared to use overwhelming force to ensure that the flow of oil remains uninterrupted. However, the presence of such a massive military force in a confined area increases the risk of a miscalculation that could ignite a wider regional conflagration. Already, there are reports of minor skirmishes between Iranian fast attack craft and Western naval vessels, adding to the extreme tension that has paralyzed international trade. Major stock exchanges across the globe have reacted with panic. In New York, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted by over 1,000 points in early trading, as investors fled toward safe haven assets like gold and government bonds. Airlines have canceled hundreds of flights across the Middle East, fearing that civilian aircraft could be caught in the crossfire of escalating missile exchanges. The geopolitical risk has reached its highest level since the end of the Cold War, with diplomats at the United Nations calling for an emergency session to prevent a total descent into chaos. But with the Iranian leadership in disarray and Israel still largely without power, the traditional channels of communication have been severed. The world is now navigating a period of extreme volatility where every hour brings news of further escalation and economic instability. The international community is grappling with the rapid collapse of diplomatic order as the conflict expands beyond the borders of Israel and Iran. In a startling move, the United States has officially closed its missions in Riyadh and Kuwait, citing an immediate and credible threat to its personnel. American nationals throughout the Middle East have been ordered to leave the region immediately. Yet many remain stranded as commercial flights are grounded and major transit hubs are targeted by missile fire. This mass evacuation order has drawn chilling comparisons to the withdrawal from Afghanistan, with many questioning if the United States has once again underestimated the complexity of a regional war. While some analysts initially predicted a swift victory similar to the political collapse in Venezuela, the reality on the ground has proven to be a brutal struggle. Tehran is now experiencing what witnesses describe as carpet bombing, as strategic sites are systematically dismantled by Western air power. Amidst the total blackout in Israel, the psychological war is intensifying. The blackout, affecting 80% of the nation, has created an environment of fear where misinformation spreads as quickly as the smell of smoke from the Orot Rabin facility. in direct response to the suffering of Israeli civilians. High-ranking officials in Washington have signaled a shift in strategy. Senator Lindsey Graham has publicly declared that the objective is now a mass murder campaign against the Iranian military leadership, promising that the world will see even more devastating results in the next 2 weeks. This rhetoric has been matched by action, as naval forces move into position to enforce a total blockade of the region. The global economy is already feeling the sting, with oil prices shattering the $120 per barrel mark and stock exchanges in free fall. The human cost continues to mount as reports of civilian casualties in Iran begin to surface. While the United States military claims to target only senior leadership and military infrastructure, state media in Tehran has released footage of an airstrike on a school in the southern city of Minab. These images, showing dozens of injured and dead children, have sparked outrage across the globe and put immense pressure on the coalition to justify its tactics. President Trump has countered these reports by doubling down on his appeal to the Iranian people, urging them to seize this moment of chaos to topple their government and claim their freedom. He warned that the hours ahead will be dangerous and that citizens must stay sheltered while the regime is dismantled. As the night deepens, the world is left to wonder if this is the birth of a new democracy or the beginning of a dark age for the entire region. The most seismic development in this escalating conflict has now been confirmed by high-level Israeli intelligence sources. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, is dead, according to multiple reports from Jerusalem. The Israeli government possesses photographic evidence confirming the leader's demise following the precision lightning strike on the secret underground command complex. This event marks an unprecedented turning point in the history of the Middle East, as the ideological and political heart of the Islamic Republic has been effectively removed in a matter of 50 seconds. The death of the Ayatollah has triggered a massive power vacuum in Tehran, with reports of intense infighting among various factions of the Revolutionary Guard as the central command structure disintegrates. The Iranian military's ability to coordinate its regional proxies, including Hezbollah and Hamas, is being severely compromised, although these groups remain a lethal threat to Israeli security. In Tel Aviv, the atmosphere is one of grim determination masked by a total blackout. The city has been described by some as a ghost town, with its streets deserted and its citizens huddled in reinforced bunkers. While the Israeli government maintains a strict grip on the flow of information through brutal censorship, leaked reports suggest that the damage to the civilian infrastructure is far more extensive than officially admitted. The total loss of power for 80% of the country has created a logistical nightmare, with water and food supplies becoming increasingly scarce. Despite these hardships, the successful elimination of the Iranian leadership has provided a surge of morale for a population that has lived under the shadow of Iranian aggression for decades. The focus has now shifted to the next phase of the operation, which United States officials describe as a comprehensive dismantling of Iran's remaining military capabilities. Senator Lindsey Graham has signaled that the coming 2 weeks will be the most violent and decisive in the entire campaign. He has publicly stated that the United States and Israel are engaged in a mission to blow the hell out of the remaining Iranian regime loyalists, promising a mass murder campaign against those who refuse to surrender. This is no longer a limited tactical engagement. It is a full-scale offensive aimed at ensuring the total collapse of the current Iranian government. As Western air forces continue their carpet bombing of strategic sites in Tehran and beyond, the message to the Iranian people remains clear. This is their only chance for generations to seize control of their own destiny. The world is watching as the old order in the Middle East is torn down, replaced by a chaotic and dangerous vacuum that will define the geopolitical landscape for the next century. The power vacuum in Tehran has triggered a secondary wave of chaos that is currently reshaping the entire political landscape of the Middle East, with the central leadership effectively dismantled in a 50-second strike. The various factions within the country have turned on one another, leading to sporadic clashes in the streets of the capital. This internal instability has significantly hampered any organized retaliatory efforts, giving Israel and its allies a critical window to consolidate their gains and begin the long process of infrastructure recovery. In Israel, the restoration of the power grid remains a slow and arduous task. While major cities have begun to see the return of electricity in small, controlled sectors, the damage to the Orot Rabin plant is so severe that it may take months to return to full capacity. The nation remains on a high state of alert, with the military maintaining its dominance in the skies to prevent any desperate last-ditch efforts by remaining regime loyalists. Internationally, the death of the supreme leader has sent shockwaves through the halls of the United Nations and the capitals of global superpowers. Russia and China have issued formal condenations of the strike, yet neither has moved to intervene militarily, executing a pragmatic acceptance of the new regional reality. The United States has reinforced its carrier groups in the Arabian Sea, ensuring that the flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz remains uninterrupted despite the turmoil in Tehran. Economic analysts suggest that while the immediate spike in oil prices was a shock to the global system, the removal of the Iranian threat could lead to a more stable and predictable energy market in the long term. However, immediate concern remains the thousands of civilians caught in the crossfire of a regime's collapse and the potential for a humanitarian crisis that could spill across borders. As the sun sets on this historic week, the map of the Middle East has been fundamentally altered. The era of the Islamic Republic as a dominant regional power appears to be coming to a violent end, replaced by an uncertain and dangerous transition. President Trump's message to the Iranian people continues to resonate as citizens begin to imagine a future without the shadow of the Ayatollahs. The coming months will be a test of whether a new democratic order can emerge from the ashes of conflict or if the region will be plunged into a new cycle of instability. For now, the lights are slowly flickering back on in Israel, but the world will never look the same again. This conflict has proven that in the age of hypersonic weapons and precision intelligence, the balance of power can shift in a matter of seconds, leaving the old world behind in the darkness.